Hello, this is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with a sequel to my video on Koechlin's Jungle Book. For those of you who find Koechlin's own music a little bit too bizarre and fanciful, there is an absolutely spectacular disc that really does reveal the other side of this composer's genius. And make no mistake, he was a genius, an offbeat genius, but a genius nonetheless. And that is this fabulous SWR music disc called Magicien orchestrateur, the Magician orchestrator. This is part of the Koechlin series on SWR music featuring Heinz Holliger with the Radio Symphony Orchestra of Stuttgart of the SWR. This is really a fascinating disc for a number of reasons, and I want to tell you what's on it and play a couple of samples for you so you get a sense of it. You know, Koechlin was, in addition to his various own compositional activities and his pedagogical activities, a wonderful orchestrator and in great demand among lazy French composers who couldn't be bothered to orchestrate their own music. Now, the first of those was Debussy, whose ballet Kama, probably the least familiar major work of everything that Debussy wrote, along with La Boîte à Joujou, the other ballet that was orchestrated by André Caplet. But Kama, which is a wonderful Asian, one of those Orientalist exotic things, was orchestrated by Koechlin. And it's marvelous. And Koechlin wrote very extensively about his process of working with Debussy in the process, because Debussy actually did the first few minutes himself, and then he gave the whole thing over to Koechlin, and they worked together very closely. I mean, Koechlin did the whole thing with Debussy's approval. And so it really is an original work of Debussy that dates from around 1912, the same period as Jeux, and Koechlin liked it better, which I think is very interesting, because Jeux is, of course, one of the great sort of contemporary modernist statements, at least in the mythology of modern music. Jeux is Debussy's most enigmatic work. Kama is a lot more danceable in the sense that it has more variety, it's a little bit more colorful, it has more motion. Koechlin considered Kama to be less episodic. It's really beautiful. It's really beautiful. And it very seldom gets played and even seldom gets recorded. You find it in complete Debussy boxes, but other than that, it's almost impossible. So here is an excellent performance of Kama in Koechlin's orchestration, which is the only one there is. Next on the disc is a tone poem / song, a short little thing called Sur les flottes lointains. Now that is a tune, a melody that was written by Koechlin's favorite pupil. Her name was something like Catherine Uribe or something like that, or let me find out what it is. Catherine Erner, that was her name, Catherine Erner, about whom Koechlin wrote that she was unusually un-American in her intelligence. She was more like a European. Make of that what you will, piece of Euro trash crap nonsense. Anyway, let's not be nationalistic. It's only about 4.5 minutes long. She wrote the tune. Koechlin made an orchestration. She died in 1942, which greatly upset Koechlin, who orchestrated some other of her works too, which are not on this disc. And Koechlin considered her to be quite a promising composer. He was totally taken with her. And this is a beautiful little, wonderful, dreamy, anything with lointain, the distance, that kind of evocative French stuff, which Koechlin did extremely well. Nobody was better at doing static, floating, evocative stuff than Koechlin was. And then we get, of course, Fauré's Pélias et Mélisande. That was, that's famous. I mean, that's Fauré's most famous and popular orchestral work, which was completely orchestrated by Koechlin, because Fauré didn't want to be bothered with it, including Fauré's most famous tune in its most popular arrangement, the Sicilienne. Here, listen, you know what it is. I mean, that is like the most beautiful thing that ever existed. I mean, it really is. And it's one of those melodies. I don't know, there's some of them that are fabulous that I just blow my mind because the tune itself, without the harmony, it's nothing. Right? It's do 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 boo do 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 do. Well, of course, when I do it, it's even less than nothing. But it's so beautiful. It's so fabulous. But it all comes from the harmonization. It's like the last of the Debussy dances for harp too, right? I mean, it's a nothing tune with absolutely succulent harmony that just makes the piece. It's gorgeous, and it's Koechlin who did that, who made Fauré's very limited output of orchestral music famous. That's the piece. And let's see, the other stuff on here is, the Chabrier Bourrée Fantasque. Now that was orchestrated by Félix Mottl originally, and you can hear it, for example, on the Paul Paré Chabrier disc. But Koechlin considered that orchestration not French enough, so he decided he could do better, and he did his own. And now everybody likes to orchestrate Chabrier anyway, so you can hear that. But the really cool thing, I mean, the absolutely unbelievable, amazing, crazy reason to get this disc is because it contains Koechlin's orchestration of Schubert's Wanderer Fantasy for piano. I'm not kidding. God knows why he did that, but he did. Liszt, as you know, took the Wanderer Fantasy and turned it into a piano concerto, which works very well, by the way. It's an extremely sensitive and excellent arrangement and a lot of fun, and it doesn't get performed, and it ought to be. The Liszt version should be played like a piano concerto, which Schubert never wrote. So we have a Schubert piano concerto. It's perfect. Schubert himself couldn't play the Wanderer Fantasy. He famously was premiering it for his friends, and when he got to the fugue at the end, he closed the piano and said, "The devil can play it." It was far more difficult than his limited abilities as a pianist could handle. It is, of course, one of his very, very greatest works. And, Donald Francis Tovey considered it to be the original tone poem, the piece that fulfills Liszt's desire for a tone poem, which was a multi-sectional work all based on the same theme and its transformations, which Schubert does so much more successfully than Liszt does in his tone poems. It's no wonder that Liszt wanted to make it a piano concerto. But Koechlin, forget Liszt and his little piano concerto. Koechlin doesn't make any effort at all to try and make it sound like Schubert. He doesn't care about Schubert's style. He does, I've never heard an orchestration quite like this. What he does is he includes a piano, but the piano is sort of a continuo part that plays most of the piece sort of underneath everything else. So you always know that it has sort of this piano basis, but on top of that is this really extraordinary orchestration, which is with lots of independent melodic lines and very cleanly etched woodwind sonorities, and it's got some percussion in it. And I mean, here, I'm going to play an excerpt. Just listen to this. I mean, that doesn't sound much like Schubert, does it? I mean, it's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. It's a wonderful realization of the work. It's entirely in keeping with the spirit of the piece. It does have enough of a sort of conservative, classical sort of ambience to let you know that he's working with a piece from an earlier period. I mean, because the orchestration doesn't go nuts in the way that a contemporary work would, like Debussy's Comma. There's nothing like that. It's solid. It's almost sort of deliberately Germanic in places, but the whole scheme of sonority is just off. In a good way. It's just so unlike anything else anybody ever did. I think that this justifies purchase of the disc. So I just want you to consider getting this, because I just love it. I play it all the time. All of the music on it's worth hearing. But where else are you going to find Debussy's Comma and Schubert's Wanderer Fantasy on the same record, orchestrated by the same guy? It shows you just what an amazingly wide range of reference he had, and an absolutely boundless intellectual curiosity, and a real gift for delving into a piece of music and realizing it in orchestral terms. So here's the disc: Charles Koechlin, Magicien, orchestrateur, featuring Heinz Holliger with the Radio Symphony Orchestra Stuttgart of SWR. You know what I mean. It's the SWR Radio Symphony Orchestra. It's on SWR Music, formerly Hensler, or maybe still Hensler. It's sort of hard to tell these days, but it's available. I know it's available, and you should grab it while you can. It is also in the big box of all of Holliger's Koechlin recordings, which is like 7 or 8 discs, and it's, amazing. Maybe I'll be able to talk about that in a later video. That's got a lot of Koechlin's original pieces, including his Offrande sur le nom de Bach, which is, of course, Bach used 3 saxophones and an onde martineau in all of his orchestral works, right? So, there is so much to discover with this guy. But if you want to hear what it's sort of the essence of his personality is seen through other people's styles, and I just love it. This is just more fun than anyone has any right to have, and you will too. All you have to do is keep on listening. So thank you and enjoy.